What's going on, Packers Nation? Welcome back to another video of Packers Latest. I'm your host, Taylor Bretl, keeping you up to date on the latest news of the green and gold Green Bay Packers. And man, it's a rough episode ahead on this one. Not going to sugarcoat it. There are always the positives and some losses, but this one, it's hard to think of one. If you're new to the channel, I welcome you. Unfortunate that you're maybe finding it on this note, but I welcome you nonetheless. If you're a returner, I welcome you back as well. Feel free to subscribe, leave a like, turn on a notification bell so you know when these videos go live and premiere in the future. But let's get into this one. Gonna start it off with what was the main headline, at least the first headline in this game, and Jordan Love getting a concussion, taking a hit to the head, and Malik Willis taking over for the rest of the game for the Packers. This was definitely what should have been the biggest headline of the game. Unfortunately, it turned over not in favor of the Packers. Not that this injury is even in favor of the Packers, but it kind of just got worse from here. Jordan Love, again, obtaining a hit to the head on a roughing the passer. It was truly a head-to-head right on the front. Jordan Love fell down rather hard in the second quarter. Malik Willis taking over for Love for the rest of the game. If I learned something in this one, though, like we kind of learned last season with Willis after that trade, it's that Willis can win the Packers football games. I know they did not come away with a win against Chicago in this one, but I don't really put much blame on Willis for this loss. You look at Willis on the night, he was 9 for 11 with 121 passing yards, a touchdown, and did not throw an interception. On the ground, he had 10 carries for 44 yards. Willis played about as good as you could ask for a backup quarterback. Truly one of the best backups in the NFL. I don't think that's crazy to say. I know the sample size might be smaller than other backups, but seriously, Willis going in there against a very good Chicago Bears team, and you feel comfortable watching him play. You're not saying, oh gosh, a backup's in. Let's just do a lot of handoffs and hope that the defense can hold the rest of the game. No, you know that Willis can push this Packers team to a win. Unfortunately, again, did not result in that in this game, but still for the future of the season, depending on Love's status, you can definitely feel comfortable with Willis in there. But you look at Willis last season as a starter for Green Bay. He did start in 2 games when Jordan Love was out, one against the Indianapolis Colts and one against his former team in the Tennessee Titans. He is 2-0 as a starter for the Green Bay Packers. He has come in for Love in other games before. Funny enough, 2 losses to the Bears in games where Love was removed from the game and Willis had to come in. He could not come away with a win in both of those, but in my opinion, still played very well in both of them. But again, as a starter, I know it's the Colts and it's the Titans last season, 2 teams that weren't great, definitely different than a NFC North leading Chicago Bears team this season, but Willis has shown that he can lead a team to victory in games that he fully starts. So it will definitely be something that's interesting to monitor. We'll get a lot of more updates on Jordan Love's status. A concussion is, something that's kind of flexible at the time frame, I guess you can call that, right? Jordan Love hasn't had a concussion maybe in college. I didn't do research to that, how far back it went, but in the NFL, he's not had a concussion yet so far. This isn't like a Tua Tagovailoa situation where he keeps getting concussions and maybe it's a longer period of time. This is a newer injury for Jordan Love, so not going to be able to really tell how long he'll be out until a true report tomorrow. But definitely devastating news. I mean, this is unfortunately an episode of some devastating news. Just add on another injury to the amount of injuries Green Bay already has. We're going to transition over, though, into the next point. Josh Jacobs, he was silenced in this game and out for most of the second half. Jacobs finished this game with just 12 carries for 36 yards, did not get in the end zone, and he had a fumble at the 7-minute and 12-second mark in that third quarter. And after that fumble, maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't believe Josh Jacobs came back into that game. Josh Jacobs, one of, the NFC's best running backs. Obviously, if you have a fumble, it's a mistake. It's on you. You got to learn from it. I don't believe Matt LaFleur and the Packers would bench him for the rest of the game because of that fumble. I think he had that fumble and he maybe re-injured that knee. Again, not really a full status on that, but you know that Josh Jacobs isn't going to play the rest of the game from the 7-minute mark in the third quarter all the way through overtime. Definitely something to monitor there. But yeah, Jacobs, a costly fumble in the red zone and did not come in the second half. I know I said he's absent for the most of the second half. That's because there wasn't really a true answer, but I believe it is mostly due to injury. But at least that first drive after the fumble, I was like, he's out because of that fumble. It's costly. He's going to learn. But I did not see him back in there. So that's something to monitor as well. Josh Jacobs was a game time decision. He was counted in as active. And he played a solid game, but just really couldn't find any holes. The O-line struggled. It definitely didn't help him out. But again, just 12 carries for 36 yards. You look at Emmanuel Wilson, who came in and had 14 carries in this one. He had 14 carries for 82 yards. He was able to find some nice gaps within the offensive line. He did not find the end zone in his own. The Packers only found the end zone one time in this game, actually. But Emmanuel Wilson, another solid, backup on this Packers team. We talked about Willis. Let's talk about Wilson. You obviously don't want to be running an entire roster of backups. That's nothing to the backups. That's just the reality of you have starters, you're paying them, you want them to be healthy. So you don't want to be running out Wilson and Willis and a lot of other guys, for the rest of the season. But it's nice to see that the Packers can compete with backups. It's not, a rollover and just let the loss settle in. You know that they can compete. Unfortunately, they could not compete until the last bell. We're going to go in to the third point in this one, though, and, the last bell, lots of things that build up to that. The clutch. No clutch plays were made when Green Bay needed it the most, in my opinion, in this game. I got a list of costly plays that I can think of in, with the last 3 minutes of regulation all the way through overtime. Starting it off, 3 minutes, 15 seconds to go in the fourth quarter, a 3rd and 20 for the Chicago Bears, and Warren Brinson gets a face mask penalty on Caleb Williams, which advances the drive that ends up leading to a field goal for the Chicago Bears. A costly penalty. I mean, you give Chicago, you don't just give them one other play, you give them an entire first down, many more plays to drive the field, which resulted in that field goal to set up the score at 16-9. The next costly play that followed that, with 1:59 to go in the fourth quarter, Romeo Doubs botching an onside kick to give the Bears the ball back. At this point of the game, the Packers had a 99.5% chance to win it. I believe those odds were per ESPN. I saw a post on that on X, but no matter who it's from, a 99.5% chance to win when you're up by 7 and you're getting the ball kicked to you sounds about right, especially when it's an onside kick. Those are rarely successful in the NFL anymore, and unfortunately, the Packers made it successful for Chicago right there. Romeo Doubs, the kick that truly went straight to him. Obviously, the PTSD of that Brandon Bostic kick in the NFC Championship came flowing in, but that kick to Doubs was truly just on the ground, on a line, got right to him, and he could not fall on it. Maybe you want him to hit it out of bounds. Maybe you want him to let it go because it's heading towards out of bounds, but nonetheless, Doubs really got in front of that and could not fully corral it, giving Chicago the ball back. We're going to go to the next play after that in that fourth quarter. Kind of just, I should say, next play all the way down to basically the final whistle of the fourth quarter, where the Chicago Bears were able to drive down the field after recovering that onside kick to tie it up and send it into overtime. Was obviously questioning if Chicago was going to go for 2 there and try to bury the Packers right in that moment. They settled for the extra point, but nonetheless, Chicago driving down the field, getting a touchdown on 4th and 4. Keyshawn Nixon not playing that strong on the right side, got caught up on a slant across the middle, leads to a wide open floater pass touchdown in the back right side of the end zone for Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears to force overtime in this game. We go to the coin flip. I'm not going to call that a loss. You can't really predict if it's going to land on heads or tails, but that's something that the Packers couldn't even win. The Bears won that. They won it with tails. They wanted the Packers to start with the ball, and that's what the Packers did. So we go to 6 minutes and 14 seconds in overtime with the Packers with the ball on the 36-yard line of Chicago's, a 4th and 1 for Green Bay. Definitely long for a field goal for Brandon McManus, who did play well in this game. Got to give him his flowers, and played well against the Denver Broncos. But on the season overall, has had some struggles, has dealt with injuries. 4th and 1 with how this wind was blowing in this game, 15 to 30 miles an hour. You did not want to kick that long of a field goal. The Packers going for it on 4th and 1, and Malik Willis, miscommunication with the offensive line, with the center, not able to corral the snap. And that is a turnover on downs for the Packers. Didn't even get a play opportunity on that 4th and 1. And that leads to Chicago just needing to score in any fashion to come away with the win. We look at that. Chicago, they drive right down the field themselves. Caleb Williams floats up a perfect pass to DJ Moore to bury Green Bay 22-16 to walk away with the win. You look at the Packers, they have 4 losses this season. Those 4 losses come by a combined score of just 20 points. 3 points to the Browns, 3 points to the Panthers. You got an 8-point loss to the Broncos, and now a 6-point loss to the Chicago Bears. I know 1-score games, maybe you don't flex that to an 8-point loss, but for this sentence, I'll say these are 4 losses by 1 score. Again, I know you have to go for 2 to make it that 8-point, call it a 1-score game, but nonetheless, 4 losses, just so close. I don't even know how to rank these from what was the best loss to the worst one. This Bears one, definitely the worst loss in the fashion. Doesn't even matter. A loss is a loss no matter how it happens, and just some ugly, ugly football for the Green Bay Packers. But something that I believe is getting overshadowed in all of this that needs to be talked about is the offensive side of the ball. The Packers 1 for 9 in the red zone in their last 2 games. In this one against Chicago, 0 for 5 in trying to get a touchdown within the red zone. Again, they did get a touchdown, a nice pass from Malik Willis to Romeo Doubs that was outside of the 20-yard line, but nonetheless, the Packers in the red zone. Maybe they score. It is not a touchdown over these last 2 games. We saw this against Denver in the first half as well, where they were up 16-14 at halftime. Coming out of the break, Sean Payton, head coach of the Broncos, he was down, but he was saying, in a positive way, Green Bay only has 16 points despite, being in the red zone like 4 times. Like, it's that is going to lose you football games. Obviously, there was so many other factors that lost in this football game. This is one of many. You can put the blame on Romeo Doubs for the onside kick. You can put the blame on Keyshawn Nixon for giving up both of those touchdowns. You could put the blame on so many people, or you could just put the blame on the team as a whole, because I think one thing led into another and it kept spiraling. Started with a Jordan Love injury. That was a weary sign. Then you go to the face mask 3rd and 20, and it just kept spiraling. I don't need to read them over again. I already did it, and I'm good. Don't need to go over it again. But nonetheless, red zone, 1 for 9 in the last 2 games. You're not going to win football games that way. The Packers, 0 for 2 in those last 2 games. These are 2 games for Green Bay to prove themselves. Denver, a very good team. Chicago, a very good team that you've already beaten once. They couldn't get the sweep done as they take that first loss in divisional play. You look at the 5 red zone trips for the Packers in this game. Ended like this. First one, turnover on downs. Jordan Love with that incompletion to Christian Watson in the end zone. Then a field goal. Then another field goal. Then Josh Jacobs with that fumble. And then a 3rd field goal. 5 trips to the red zone. 9 total points. 2 turnovers. That's not going to win you a football game. Again, lots of factors lost the Packers this football game, but this one needs to be talked about. And against the Broncos, just 1 for 4 in that game. I don't know. I sound like a broken record. I'm repeating myself. There's really not much more to say. That's just not going to win you football games. The injuries suck. The way these things crumbled sucks, but 1 for 9 in the red zone. It's not going to win you football games. Let's improve that next week. Baltimore Ravens, a struggling team, a defense that is struggling as well. Maybe it's a get-right game for the Green Bay Packers. Feels like a lot of things are slipping away. Felt like the injuries kind of slipped the season away. But hey, you got the Bears. You can bounce back. You got a 10-point lead, and then it all crumbles from there. Still got the full season to go. Last time the Packers won the Super Bowl, they were the last team to make the playoffs. There was only 6 teams back then. Now there's 7 teams that make it. But they were the last seed to make the playoffs. And hey, they beat the Bears in Chicago in the playoffs to make it to the Super Bowl. As the playoff picture stands as of today, you got all the Sunday games that need to be played, but the Packers sit at the 7 seed, the last seed in the NFC. Chicago sitting at that 2 seed. If the playoffs ended right now, even though the Packers and Bears have 1 more game, Packers would be going right back to Chicago to play this Chicago Bears team. You got to clean up the ugly mistakes. You got to clean up the red zone. So many things to clean up. I made this point about the red zone struggles. There were struggles left and right, but you cannot be settling for field goals. And when you try to not settle for a field goal, you can't fumble the football. You can't turn it over on downs. You just can't do that. I'm not going to act like it's going to be a 100% success rate, but you can't go 0 for 5 in a division game where you're playing for first place in the division. You can't do that. That just loses. It loses more than the game. I mean, there are losses within this, the injuries, too many losses within this, but I'm just rambling at this point. I feel like I'm going nowhere with this, but I feel like I'm also going somewhere with this. You saw the product on the field. If you didn't watch the game, I feel like you can get a pretty good summary of how this game closed out. But that's all I got for this episode of Packers Latest. It's a rough one. It's a tough one, but there's still a lot to look forward to. It's the Packers. We've seen many comebacks before. RELAX and go Pack